and good morning, everyone. Welcome to Ad America, the U.S. Embassy American Center, with me, Farah Shiba, as your e-guides for today. For those of you who are new here, Ad America is the U.S. Embassy American Center, where our mission is to provide space for young Indonesians to explore, experience, and express American culture through our diverse program and facilities. Today's special talk is Consortium Law School Fair 2023, where we will discover more on Consortium Law School and the program provided with the university's representatives. But before we start the talk, we have a trivia quiz for you, and the quiz is it true or false that Indonesia and the United States apply the same type of law? If you know the answer, submit your correct answer through our social media platform, and for those of you who answered correctly and quickly, will get a shout out from us at the end of the event. And now let us hear the opening remarks from Luke Yim, Education USA Regional Educational Advising Coordinator. To Pak Luke Yim, the stage is yours.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you and welcome to our LL.M fair. Thank you for your precious time. Thanks for joining us. It's always good to see future young leaders. So thanks for the participants who are joining us virtually as well. We live in a very exciting time, and it is an exciting time especially for Indonesia. In 20-30 years, we're going to see Indonesia becoming one of the most powerful countries in the world. You're going to be one of the big four economies of the world. So that will happen within your lifetime. And what that means is that we need young leaders, passionate professionals who will be prepared to lead the time when Indonesia becomes one of the most powerful countries in the world. And today you're in here for a treat because we have top law schools, big four top law schools from the United States here with us today. It is a wonderful opportunity. And then what we need is not just great leaders, but we need young leaders in different fields and with expertise, law professionals who are not only good lawyers and attorneys, but who know how to connect with the world. So we need law professionals who know how to work with professionals from different countries. And so your future is on a path to become very, very bright. And now this is about a future where you can really be in the role where you play a leadership role in the world. So today we're going to hear from these law school representatives, and you will also get an opportunity to engage with them one-on-one. So I hope you enjoy the program for today, and I hope you gain a lot of good information from our law schools, and hope you will really become the future leaders that we all look forward to. Thank you very much, and have a wonderful day.
Thank you to Pak Luke Yim as Education USA Regional Educational Advising Coordinator for the warm greetings. Now I would like to invite our moderator for today. She is an Education USA advisor with more than 5 years experience in educational advising. To Caroline Darmanto, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Farah. Hi, good morning, everyone. How are you today? Great. I think I need to hear a louder voice from you guys. How are you guys today? Great. Are you guys excited for today's event? Okay. So before we start the event, allow me to introduce myself and what Education USA is. So my name is Caroline. I'm one of the advisors here at America, along with my colleague May, who is sitting right over there. So have you guys heard of Education USA before? Yes? Anyone else? Okay, so Education USA is an advising network under the US Department of State. We're available in over 170 countries, and we're available in multiple cities in Indonesia. In fact, there are 2 centers in Jakarta. You can see it on the slides here behind me. We have 2 centers in Jakarta, one at the US Embassy and one here at America. One in Aceh, one in Surabaya, one in Malang, and one in Makassar. But what's very unique about our center at America is that we are open every day from Monday to Sunday. Generally from 1 p.m. to 9 p.m. except on Saturdays. We're open a little earlier at 10 a.m. And if you guys don't live anywhere in the cities, you guys don't have to worry because you can see the QR code right on the bottom right here, and there's a link right there. Book your appointments with any of the advisors that you think will be suitable for you and can help you very well. And you can meet us online, virtually, through either Zoom or Google Meet. So don't have to worry if you guys have any friends or family members who don't live in any of the cities, tell them that also, and we'll be more than happy to help you out. Okay, and what's very unique about Education USA at America is that we, other than we're open every day, we host events, multiple events such as this one, on a weekly basis or maybe a monthly basis. And you can get more information, meet alumni, meet current students, meet admissions officers who are visiting here, and you can talk to them directly and learn from them as well. Right, so without further ado, let me introduce you to all of our 4 wonderful speakers for today and help me welcome them on stage. So we have Justin Swinsik from the University of Chicago Law School. We have Amy Houston from Cornell Law School. We have Mary Beth Busby from Northwestern Pritzker School of Law. And last but not least, we have Helen Rowe from the University of Pennsylvania Carey Law School. A big round of applause one more time, everyone. All right. Hi, Justin, Helen, Mary, and Amy. How are you guys today?
Doing very well. Thank you for having us.
Okay. Is this your first time here?
At America, yes.
Okay. All right. So before we start, why don't y'all introduce yourself and the university? And we can start from you.
Yeah, so my name is Justin Swinsik. I'm the Senior Director of Graduate Programs at the University of Chicago Law School.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Amy Houghton, the Associate Dean for Graduate Legal Studies at Cornell Law in Ithaca, New York.
Hi, I'm Mary Beth Busby. I'm the Director of Graduate and International Program Admissions at Northwestern Pritzker School of Law in Chicago.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Helen Rowe, Associate Director at University of Pennsylvania Carey Law School in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
All right, thank you. Okay, so I think there's a very common question about going to school in the U.S., especially for law schools, because I think this was mentioned previously in the question of the day that Indonesia and the U.S., they may have different law systems, right? I think I just give you guys an answer online. But yeah, so I guess with the difference of the legal system, how do you think Indonesian students can benefit by going to a law school in the U.S.?
Yeah, so I think that's one of the critical questions of looking at a graduate program outside of Indonesia. Especially with the United States, it's really important to think about why you're going to the United States to pursue that program. Because in the United States, even if you're looking at international law, kind of writ large, you're going to look at it from a U.S. perspective. So the U.S. and Indonesia obviously have very, very different systems. So when you come to the United States, I would say, first of all, anybody who ends up working in international transactions, you're going to come across U.S. law at some point. So it's really important to have an understanding of how common law has been developed in the United States. And even if U.S. law is not necessarily the controlling law in a particular transaction, it may be peripherally involved in the interaction or the transaction. So having an understanding of U.S. law is really, really important. Right. Second of all, the U.S. is really, really focused on skills-based education. So it's really focused on advocacy, on reasoning, on logic, and synthesizing rules from multiple sources. So those skills are usable anywhere in the globe. And so coming back to Indonesia to continue your practice, that's really going to be a huge benefit. Third, obviously, your legal communication skills are going to dramatically improve in a program like this, and especially in the United States, where we focus so much on writing skills. Your ability to persuasively write is going to improve vastly in a program in the United States. Professional development in the United States is also a big, big part, because especially programs like ours, we really do attract the best of the best from around the globe. And so your opportunity to really develop your network in one of our programs and come back to Indonesia and be able to rely on people in Germany, in Australia, in Nigeria, as you're continuing your practice is going to be a huge, huge benefit.
Anyone else want to add something to it? Or did Justin answer everything already?
Well, the other thing when you're coming to the U.S., our programs, the law schools are set up, they're very student-centered. So sometimes, all of our LLM programs, they're for international attorneys who want to have that U.S. 1-year experience in an LLM program. Now, sometimes people consider other common law countries, and we have many LLM students who join us from the UK, from Australia, from New Zealand, not because of the different legal education that they're going to have with common law versus civil law, but because of the way that we teach law. It is very student-centered. You have a very interactive relationship with your faculty, your fellow classmates, and just the number of extracurriculars also. There's so much going on within the law school and on our campuses as a whole that there is much to do all throughout your law school education during your LLM. It's not just classroom-based.
Mary, Helen, anyone want to add?
Yeah, I think they covered it.
Well, if anyone has ever heard of maybe something called the New York Bar and wanting to work in the United States, we'll go into it in a little bit more detail. But that's also one of the reasons why a lot of people come to the United States to pursue their graduate law degree.
Okay. So, I mean, you briefly touch on the New York Bar, but also from what I know, whether it's LLM or JD, there's concentrations for each, for the majors, right? Each concentrations. Is there any specific concentration that is very popular at your respective universities?
Well, first I would say that all of us have general programs.
Oh, okay.
So for the most part, students who are coming to our programs are able to kind of design a program of study that fits with their particular interests. So, corporate finance, capital markets, or, trial advocacy and negotiations, IP, all of that is available to you. So basically students in all of our programs pick and choose from the JD curriculum. So, we prepare lawyers to go out and do any and all types of law in the United States. So all of those courses are available to you. Now, there are some specialized programs, tax and other areas, but I think the majority of international students who are enrolling in our programs are going to the general program.
I see.
And that is one thing when we're building a class. We are looking for diversity in our students across the board, so even diversity of studies. So when you're filling out your personal statement, and we'll talk about applications a little bit more today, what you're saying in your personal statement and what you're saying you want to focus on can play into how the school is building their class. We don't want everybody who's going to do just corporate M&A or human rights or intellectual property, partly because we want to have our students dispersed throughout all of the classes. Another nice thing about our programs is that you can take classes, I believe for all of us, outside the law school program as well. So many students take classes at the business school. And at Cornell, some of those classes are cross-listed, I imagine, at our other schools as well, because some of our faculty are duly appointed, and it will be a law class and a business class, but you can still take, credits outside of law as well.
Yeah, and kind of picking up on what both Mary Beth and Amy were saying, in regards to kind of that flexibility and the choice that you have, the United States is kind of unique in that respect, because there are options all over the globe, United Kingdom, continental Europe, all throughout Asia, that have international Master of Laws programs, but most of those tend to be very fixed kind of blocks where you're starting and finishing with a cohort all taking the same classes. Whereas in the United States, you really do get to do what you want. You can shape the program however you want.
So it's really flexible. It's student-centric, as you mentioned before.
Yes, and interdisciplinary as well, which is very helpful today.
Okay, amazing. So we talk about, the application briefly just now. Is LSAT mandatory for all of your schools or in general in law schools?
It is. I mean, not at all law schools, but at all of the top law schools. The application process does go through LSAC, and we'll get into a little bit more of the nitty-gritty of that in the presentation, but the short answer is yes.
Okay. And how hard is that? Because I bet it's going to be really hard, right? The LSAT?
Oh,
The
no,
LSAT.
The LSAT, the
I am
test,
so
yeah.
sorry.
Oh,
I thought
no,
you
no,
said
no, no, no,
LSAT.
Yeah.
No
Not the
LSAT.
LSAT, yeah.
You do not. The only test that you would have to take would be the TOEFL or the IELTS, the English language proficiency
so even-
tests. Yeah.
Okay,
so
so
no
no
LSAT.
LSAT, no GRE, I think.
No.
Okay.
Not
well,
for the
that-
LLM program. If you're
Okay.
interested in the JD program, then yes.
Okay. And now that's different compared to the bar exam that Helen was talking about earlier. Do you mind explaining it a little bit more?
That's correct. So the LSAT is the law school entrance exam. It's like the aptitude test. Sorry, law school aptitude test. I'm confusing it there. So if you want to go to a JD program, most of our schools do require you to take the entrance exam. That's to get into the law school program. For the LLM programs, we do not require that entrance exam. We only require the language aptitude test, whether it's a TOEFL or an IELTS, or I think you can also try to get a waiver if you meet those qualifications. So those are all entry level. The bar exam is after you graduate from either the JD or the LLM. In order to be licensed in practice in the United States, you do need to be a member of one of the bars, and each state has a different bar. The most popular is the New York bar for our LLMs. So that's a separate exam that you take after you graduate with your degree.
I'm going to add on to the bar just because we're talking about it now. And so with, if you're interested in the New York bar, and a lot of LLM students who come to the US are interested in qualifying to sit for the New York bar exam, before you ever come to the US, as long as you've finished your first law degree, so those of you who are even applying through LSAC right now, you can submit for a review of your foreign qualifications with the Board of Law Examiners in the state of New York. I tell you to do that early because when you come into an LLM program, you'll arrive in the US in July or August, let's say, and if you want to sit for the following July bar, they have to review your transcripts to let you know if you're eligible to sit or not. So nobody at any law school can tell you that you will be eligible, even if we believe that you will be. The New York bar has to give you clearance, essentially. And so it's free to do. It doesn't have an expiration date. So the sooner you do it, the more information you have as to what you might want to do during your LLM year. Now, I am the first person to talk any international LLM out of sitting for the New York bar. And I do that because I want to make sure that it is really relevant to your future career goals. It changes your trajectory when you're in law school, should you choose to sit for the New York bar, because the Board of Law Examiners is likely going to look at your transcript from your first law degree and tell you that you're academically deficient and able to sit. You have to come to one of our programs in the US, take all your classes in person, 24 credits, but 12 of those credits are very specific. And so when you have to take professional responsibility and legal writing and business organizations or other Section D courses, it can really change what then you're adding into your curriculum as a whole. And you come to our schools for our amazing faculty. And some of the most interesting classes are not those really large sort of New York bar cure courses. So really think about if it's pertinent to your future, and if you really want to invest that additional time, money, energy into qualifying. Once you sit the exam, even if you pass, there's additional steps you need to take in order to be admitted. So that's the second question I then ask my students is, do you want to just take the exam, pass it, say that you passed it, put it on your CV, or do you want to be admitted in the state of New York? And there's additional submissions, like 50 hours of pro bono. You can do that a year before you come into an LLM program. You can do it during your LLM, and you can do it after you take the exam and finish your LLM, because you have 3 years from passing that bar exam to seeking admission. And some people wait to seek admission just because of the additional expenses that are involved, like a tax on your professional license and continuing legal education credits. But if you have any questions about any of that, do come and speak to us afterwards or ask us during our Q&A.
Right, perfect. So I don't know if you guys noticed there are tables outside. So after this discussion, you guys will be able to meet our speakers directly and ask them direct questions about their universities. Right,
So when we're talking about the applications, do you guys review the students' applications or help review the applications? Yeah?
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah. That's fun, right?
Yeah,
So-
no, I honestly, it's one of my favorite things about
Yeah.
the job, and I feel really privileged because people open themselves up to us.
Exactly,
And so
exactly.
we take that very seriously
Yeah.
when we're looking at every application.
I agree. And reading the essays, I actually like reading people's essays. So how do you review and select your students while you're reviewing the applications?
So I mean, what you're going to hear first and foremost from all of us is that it's a holistic process, and that's very, very true. We're looking at multiple aspects of your background, your future, your potential for the program, and so we're trying to see you as a whole person and as a whole candidate. So now, obviously, academics matter. Our programs are very rigorous, and we want you to succeed in the program, but that's not the end of the story. What kind of professional experience have you had? What do you want to do? What are you thinking about when you're coming to the program, and how do you fit in with the broader picture of our classes? So that's kind of the broad context of it.
Yeah, I mean, what we ask for when you go to LSAC and you see what we're asking for, we all have general applications. We have, you have to submit a resume or CV. You have to submit personal statement and letters of recommendation and your TOEFL or IELTS score. And as Justin said, we are looking at those academics first and foremost, but we want to see who you are, what you're interested in. If you feel like there is a weakness in your application, if your grades were maybe not so good your first year, or your TOEFL score you think is not really representative, you're working, you don't have time to study, you go in and you take the exam and you don't get a good section score, let's say, it's good to tell us about that or have a recommender speak to that weakness as well. Otherwise, the committee is going to come to their own conclusion about why the writing score isn't good or the oral score on that TOEFL isn't good. So give us a little bit of context if you think that there's something that isn't really highlighting you in a positive way.
I absolutely agree with that. And I don't know about you guys, but I would say you don't have to use your personal statement to explain that weakness. You really want to use that statement to kind of introduce yourself to the committee, to tell us things about you that we're not going to get from anywhere else in your application, right? We already have your transcripts, we have your letters of recommendation. The personal statement is a way to introduce yourself. So I'm just, don't necessarily think that you need to discuss the weakness in the statement itself. You can use an addendum. Do you guys all accept addendums? Yeah.
Helen, do you want to add anything to it?
Yeah, and I think it's just kind of what we've been saying is that we're looking to build a class. We're very enthusiastic about all our applicants, and generally it always comes down to numbers. We find that we have a lot more applicants that we would love to admit, but we do also try to limit our class sizes so that there's so many more talented and worthy applicants that we wish we could take you all. But unfortunately, we just don't have the space. So we look first and foremost at the academics, like Justin said, but we also want someone who we think will thrive once they get to our school. So thriving emotionally, culturally, as well as academically. So if you're coming to our schools and we don't think you'll be able to withstand the rigorous law school classes, you're not going to be happy. So we want you to come to America, be happy, and so I think that's kind of what we try to get. It's always not 100%, it's not out there, but as we read every application thoroughly several times, that's what we try to do.
Yeah, I would say one more thing.
Yep.
And that is we also want to enroll students who are excited about our programs, right? Who kind of understand why a specific school or program, is a good fit for them, right? So in your personal statement, I think it's a good idea to talk about specific things about the school. Maybe it's a professor, maybe it's a clinical opportunity, a course, but sort of weaving that into your personal statement could go a long way to convincing us that you would be a good fit for the school.
And just going back to personal statements, only because it's the question that we get the most about the application process as a whole. It can be an odd experience to write about yourself. Some schools, like Cornell, we have prompts. You can just answer our prompts. Feel like you're just talking to me, not on stage, but across the table. And think about what we don't know about you, right? We've seen your grades, we've seen your work experience. So tell us a little bit more about, what you want to be doing during your LLM year and why you want to come to our institution in particular.
Okay. Right. So we have a question from our audience online. So the first one is from Sarah. What do recommendation letters play in a successful law school application, and how can I secure a strong letter of recommendation?
Yeah, they're incredibly important. But the most important thing with those letters is that they come from people that really know you and can speak about their experience having worked with you and can talk about your qualities and ability to succeed in a rigorous program. So that does not necessarily have to be the dean of your law school or the managing partner of the law firm that you work. It can be somebody lower down on the hierarchy, because if you get a letter from somebody at that institution who really doesn't know you and they write just a couple of sentences, that's going to have a negative impact on your application. And to be honest with you, the importance of that particular individual may even get lost in translation to the reader of your application. Whereas somebody who may not be the absolute boss at that institution, but they write a heartfelt letter, that's going to carry a lot more weight. We also get questions about whether or not they should be academic focused or professional. That really doesn't matter. Obviously, for somebody who's fresh out of law school, you're probably not going to have as many professional contacts, and so it may make more sense to have a professor that you had write the letter. But if you're somebody who's been out for 5-6 years practicing, you probably not have been in touch with the faculty from your law school. So it's perfectly defined to have those letters come from other lawyers that you've worked with.
It's also helpful to have somebody who maybe has studied in the US or done an LLM, especially alumni. If an alumni is writing your letter, it gives us a sense that they believe that you're going to be successful in the same program that they were in. And we know you then also have a contact and have a little bit more in-depth knowledge of our institution as well.
So the other question was how, right?
Right.
So I think obviously you're hopefully choosing people that know you well. I think one tip is to ask early, because these people are all going to be very busy. The whole process of applying can be very time consuming. So first, after you've identified who you're going to ask them early. I also think it's really good to give them a copy of your resume and also maybe your statement of purpose. That way they can sort of write a letter that meshes with the application that you're submitting in terms of your goals, what you want to study, what you want to do. I think that's very helpful, and it can also jog their memory, right? Maybe it's been a few years since you took a class or you worked on a case, so the resume can really go a long way to kind of jogging their memory as to who you are.
So I think the other issue that we have here usually is that the recommender does not speak English very well. They can't really write in English. So a lot of questions that I get is, what if they write in Indonesian and have someone translate the letter? Will that be okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, right. Helen, do you want to add anything? No.
I think it was covered. Thank you.
All right. So we have another question from Instagram. The question is from Alana. What key components should I include in my law school application to enhance my chances of acceptance?
Well, the first step is having solid academics. And then demonstrating that you have, good English skills as well. So to keep up with the lectures, the reading is incredibly intensive, and writing as well.
Okay.
Yeah, and in the personal statements, obviously echoing everything they said was great about the personal statement, but to this specific question, also make sure that you show the admissions committee that you've thought really deeply about why you're applying to that program. That you're not just throwing something against the wall and seeing what sticks, that you've really thought carefully about how that specific program in that specific city fits in with your goals, whatever those goals may be.
Okay.
Can I add one more thing?
Yes, of course.
And that is, at all of our schools, the LL.M students come in and they're really a part of the community, right? So we really want to enroll people who are going to come and take advantage of that and be a contributing part of the student body. So I would also not discount on your resume outside interests, clubs that you've been involved in, leadership roles that you've had, whether that was while you were a student or as a professional. These are things that can set you apart, all things being equal. like having a good transcript, having some work experience. These other things can kind of set you apart. You guys might disagree.
No, I actually love, I don't think we include hobbies on a traditional American-style U.S. resume, which you'll be coached on once you get there. But from the applicants, I always do like to see hobbies, and I always like when we always say, oh, there's like someone who's interested in the electric guitar, a drummer, and we're like, oh, maybe we can create an LL.M band, a rock star band. So those are always great.
That's amazing. Okay, so while you're reviewing the application, is there a certain thing that international students maybe make mistakes on, like a common mistake, or is there anything that international students need to improve on before they're applying?
Well, if you use the same personal statement for school to school, make sure you change the name of the school. that's a death knell for an application.
Right, right.
And it's better to have an authentic personal statement than something that somebody's coached you on or you generate it using AI. I mean, having this perfect statement is not what we're looking for. We're looking for something that really demonstrates who you are and is interesting. And you don't have to have all the answers, right? Sometimes people think that they have to say, well, I'm coming and I want to focus on intellectual property. But if you really just want to use your LLM as an exploratory year, be authentic. Tell us that. That's completely fine. Don't get caught up into believing that there's some perfect statement out there and you need to copy it. We see a lot. There's plenty of people who go online and they must, do a search. And we see very similar statements from certain regions certain times. So just try to avoid doing that.
So does that actually happen a lot, that someone submits the personal statement and forgets to change the school name?
Not a lot, but every single year, without
Every
fail.
single year.
It's like the last paragraph will have other school name.
They make sure they change everything but the last one.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So now the million-dollar question is, does your school provide scholarship?
Yes. So all of our schools have merit scholarships. The application process may be slightly different for it, but most of us will look at your application as you apply and consider everybody that's been admitted to the program for merit scholarships.
So we have a section on our application. It says, do you want to be considered for a scholarship? Check yes or no. If you check no, you will not be considered. And you can come back later and say, I'd really like to be considered for a scholarship, but then it's going to be based on if there's any availability at that time. And there are some specific scholarships as well, based on what donors have endowed. They may have a set criteria. If you meet that criteria, feel free to say you want to be considered for that special scholarship, and you don't have to submit a whole essay on it, but you might need to submit just a couple sentences as to why you would qualify.
Oh, and to pick up on the yes/no question on the application, if you want to be considered, mark yes. Some people think that by marking no, they have a better shot of admission. That is absolutely not true at all. So if you want to be considered, mark yes. If you're a fantastic candidate, you'll get admitted to the program.
Okay. Mary and Helen, anything you want to add to this one?
Just know that it's limited. We have limited funding, and it's very rare. At least at our school, we don't offer full scholarship, so that would cover your tuition, living expenses, etc. So we would all love to have more funding, but we do have very limited funding for international students. So be aware of that. Work with your partners like at EdUSA, Fulbright, government scholarships. Seek many and seek early so that you don't miss any deadlines. Maximize every avenue, and of course, always check the box yes, no matter what.
Okay, perfect. So we have one more question from our audience online before we open the questions to the audience here. So the question is there a specific activity that you're looking for from our prospective students, such as maybe if they join a certain community or an organization, or they do some kind of volunteering activities?
Not at all. This goes back to the diversity question, right? Like we want to enroll a diverse class in all respects, right? Mm-hmm. In terms of your experiences, in terms of where you're coming from, and also in terms of what you're interested in. Okay. So there isn't any one thing. I think, again, it's more important that you become involved in things that are of interest to you, mm-hmm. and that you're passionate about, and then you'll be able to speak about that in a really meaningful way.
Right. So it's good to have those activities, but you guys don't really look into a specific ones.
Not at
Okay.
all. Nope.
All right, perfect. So we're gonna open the question to our audience here. Anyone here want to ask a question? Okay, so
Hello, thank you for the explanation. My name is Ruth, and I think I see one of you before in the video. I have a question. You keep talking about holistic approach and rigorous study. My question would be, how can you know that, oh, this applicant is really like so holistic, so we have to choose this person, or this applicant is ready for rigorous study? Like, how do you determine that? And the second question would be, how can we as applicants prepare for such rigorous study? Because in Indonesia, I think we are not very in-depth into law. We are more like small, very layer, but I've studied in the US and Australia before. It's like depth. So is there any course that you recommend us to prepare before we get shock therapy, you know? So, because like I know one of the U.S. organization here prepare for a course for that. But as you are the experts, maybe you can enlighten us as to prepare. Thank you.
all right, who wants to take the first
Well,
question?
I would say when we're talking about holistic approach, what we mean is that there's not one aspect of your application that is going to be a hard denial, right? Like, we're going to look at everything. Even if you submit an application with a TOEFL score of 85, you don't automatically get disqualified as a deny. We're still going to go through and look at your transcript and read everything. And if you write to us and say, I'm planning on retaking the TOEFL, and you resubmit a score and now it's 105, that may make a big difference. We're not going to disqualify you based on one item. And what we mean by rigorous is that, I mean, our classes they're not easy. Like, you know, there are people who they've been working, and we were, you know, just in Thailand, and one of the graduates who attended the event, she was giving her perspective of her LL.M year, and she'd been working for 5 years. So when she came, she said it was a bit of a vacation. And afterwards, we went to dinner, and she said, I still went to every class. And by the way, you have to attend class. It's a requirement. You may not skip class. You're going to get called on, and we're going to reach out to you if we hear from the faculty that you're not going. But, you know, it depends on where you are, right, in your studies as a whole. But part of that rigor is we are going to look at your prior transcript. We know the level of universities throughout the world, so we're going to consider where is it that you studied before. And it's not a matter of you're going to come in and it's the paper chase, and you look to your right and your left and somebody's going to fail out. There's a lot of support at our universities now. And part of what we are looking for is that person, when you're submitting your application, that we see the commitment that you've had throughout the longevity of your education, of your career, because that resilience plays a lot in, you know, getting through your law school exams.
All right, does that answer your question?
And I would also say our Indonesian
Sure.
students do quite well. So, you know, we're able to select the students that are going to be successful at our schools. And we also, and this sort of goes back to the value of an LL.M in the United States, we have a lot of support systems. You know, we have people that are academic counselors. We, you know, have JD students that serve as peer mentors to the LL.M students to kind of guide them through. These are students that are already in their, you know, second or third year. They've been through that, and they can help you succeed in the rigor of the classroom.
While we're talking about it, there's a good question from our audience online as well, from Shadila. Her question is, what resources are available for law students to prepare for their legal careers?
So we all have career counselors on our campuses. All of our schools here also are part of consortiums that have a career fair in January of each year. So firms that are specifically seeking LL.M students can, you know, it used to be in person. Lately, it's been online since COVID. Hopefully, there's some things that go back. At all of our schools, we have relationships with firms globally. Those firms will reach out to us even as early as August. I didn't even sit my class this year, and they were reaching out seeking to send information along to our incoming students. Now, law firms recruit LLMs very differently than JDs. So if you go online and you read about JD recruitment at all of our schools, it's very different than LLM recruitment. Law firms, the US firms and global firms, when they're seeking LLM candidates, they're reaching out to us and they're asking about our current students not based by their class year like they do by JDs. For JDs, it's 1L, 2L, 3L. For our LLM candidates, it's typically where did they study, so their first degree of law, prior professional experience, or language skills. So take that into account as well.
Okay.
And to add on that, we have all of these wonderful things at each of our schools, but there's a big onus on each individual student to do the outreach, to do the work, to utilize those tools. So I always encourage students from the second you arrive, and even before, be active. Get out there, go to events, talk to people. And in those circumstances, I see students that do have success.
Okay, that's good. Want to add anything? Nope. Do you want to add anything to it?
No, I think just to echo, we have, once you get admitted, you have access to alumni. So reach out to us and say, hey, can we get a list of alumni maybe from my school or from our hometown or from our city? So maybe you can start asking them. We have all the resources. We have dedicated LLM career counselors. We'll teach you how to write a US-style resume, networking skills, but we won't set up coffee dates for you. That's kind of up to you. And it's networking. The students that have networked even before coming to the LLM program, we find they have the most success.
Okay. I do want to add, it is a long-term investment, right? So that LLM year pays dividends throughout your career. It's not just where am I as I walk across the stage and it's May and I've finished my LLM degree. Part of going to schools at our level is you have a global alumni base with which to draw. You're also in classes with LLM students from around the world who are really in quite amazing positions, and the JD students themselves. I always tell my LLMs to align yourself with the 3Ls. The 3L students typically know what firms they're going off to, and they can become part of your broader network in your future career as well.
Okay, all right. So let's take one more question from the audience here. Anyone here want to ask a question? Okay, right there.
Hello, my name is Marlina. Actually, I want to ask, is there any of you that have a program for non-bachelor degree? Like, because I'm not a law bachelor degree, but my work is working in the law enforcement, so that I want to pursue in law. Because so far, I think like most of you guys said that we should have a law bachelor degree before. Thank you. And if there is, do you guys have a concentration in taxation? Thank you.
So at Chicago, you're required to have a first degree in law, so with the Sarjana Hukum from Indonesia. So we don't have any other programs other than those.
Yeah, for Cornell, you're required to have a first degree of law for our LLM program.
Okay.
Same. We do have a tax, but you have to have a first degree in law for that as well. So
At Penn, we have accepted students without a first degree in law, but they were already licensed to practice some way through in their home country. And so their home country didn't require them to have an LLB, for example, but they were practicing attorneys, members of the bar.
Okay. All right. Does that answer your question? Can you repeat the question? Sorry.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, like legal studies, like that accepts to that not law bachelor degree are eligible to apply, like in a Cornell. Because if I'm not mistaken, I've read it like you have MSL program, like the 9.
There is an MSLS program at Cornell. It is an online program. So I don't oversee that program. I only do graduate legal studies, which is the LLM, the Masters of Law, and the JSD, which is like a PhD program.
Okay, thank you.
So if she wants to ask more questions on that, can she
Come find me. We
contact?
do have an MSL for non-lawyers.
Okay. Okay. So can she contact the university directly, the admissions office, and ask about it?
She can contact the MSLS program, yes.
Okay. All right. So you might want to contact them directly and ask about the program. Okay. So I think we have time for one more question. Okay, someone is very enthusiastic over here. Can we have a microphone?
Hi, thank you very much for the opportunity. My name is Gita. So I want to ask about how is the position of LLM graduate in the U.S. job market? Is it possible, and what would be the most challenge for LLM graduate to get job opportunity in the U.S.? Because as you have mentioned, New York bar exam is a long-term investment, and I want to know how that investment I've made will carry me further in my career. Thank you.
Yeah, so first and foremost, if you do one of these programs, you need to think about how it's going to set you up for success back home, because the honest truth is very few students pursuing an LLM program get jobs in the United States. Because even with an LLM from a top university passing the New York bar, you still have to get over the hurdle of not being a citizen or a US permanent resident. And so employers are very hesitant to hire those candidates. It does happen. And even in the instance where you do get a job offer, the H-1B visa is still a lottery. And so that takes it out of your hands. So if you do these programs, you want to make sure to know how it's going to set you up for success. Now, do everything you can during the program to try and find one of those positions if that's something that you want to do. But I would not suggest a program like this if that is your sole singular goal.
It is a challenge for international students, and especially with just an LLM, to secure US employment. We all have exceptions to that rule. Every year, we all have LLM students who do secure an opportunity. If you come in on an F1 visa, you have the ability to apply for optional practical training, OPT, which extends your student visa into then a work visa for 12 months. Having that OPT does not guarantee as well that the firm still might want to bring you on. Oftentimes, if you're working for a firm on OPT, you're working as a foreign associate. You don't need the New York bar. I have plenty of people who say, I want to do the New York bar for my OPT. OPT years, typically foreign associate, not necessary, and likely you won't even be admitted to the New York bar during your OPT year. So just take that into consideration as well.
Right. Okay. So I think that concludes our discussion for today. But everyone, don't forget there are booths outside. You'll be able to meet Justin, Helen, Amy, and Mary and talk to them directly, ask them about their universities and everything else, really. So thank you so much for joining. Thank you everyone who's watching from home. And I'm going to hand the floor back to Farah.
Thank you. Just really quick, we do a lot of these, and I have to say this is the coolest setup I've ever been a part of.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much to our moderator and speakers today. I hope everyone gained a lot of insights and eager to know more information on Consortium Law School through some university booths we have in the exhibition area. And at the beginning of our event, we have a trivia quiz for you, and the question was, is it true or false that Indonesia and the United States apply the same type of law? And the answer is false. Indonesia applies civil law, while the United States applies common law. Shout out goes to @Santalia Christie from Instagram for answering the question correctly. If you're interested to know more about our events and related to our site, kindly visit our social media pages. We're on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook at IT America. Also consider to be members of 8 America through our website at www.8america.or.id. And with that, we've come to an end for our session today. I am Farah Shiba, and see you at the next 8 America event. Goodbye.